Hey everyone, welcome to Prep Year 1. We are super excited to have you. My name is Alexa and I'm going to be one of your instructors for this summer. You also have 3 other amazing instructors that you'll work with and you'll meet them virtually later on. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our first activity, which is creating a science journal. So why is it so important to keep a science journal? Why do scientists use them? Well, they use them because they collect a lot of data and there's no way they'd be able to keep all that information in their head. And so the best thing to do is to store it all in one safe place, right? So when they record their data, they can refer to it later, or they can even share some of their findings with other people later on if they like. So that's a little bit about why it's so important to keep science journals. We are going to be doing a lot of different activities and experiments this summer, so we want you to keep this and add to it every week, okay? So making a science journal is actually pretty simple. All you need is any kind of notebook. Any kind of notebook. It doesn't have to be new. It can be used. It can have pages ripped out. It can have things written in it already. You can just kind of, rip those pages out so you can start fresh. But yeah, you just need any kind of notebook so that way you can keep all of your information together in one place. We don't want to have loose pieces of paper flying out because they'll get lost and or they could get damaged. So yes. So the first thing that we want you to do to make your science journal is to decorate the front. So you can see that I have decorated mine. I really like plants and animals. And so you see I've got some of those things here, some stickers and some pictures. Also, really important, make sure your name's on the front, just in case it gets lost or something, someone can return it to you. So first things first, decorate the front of your journal. Try and keep it science, school-related things, that would be appropriate for school. You are gonna have this journal, all summer, so make it yours. So the first page that's going to be in here is going to be the table of contents. So just leave that first page blank for now and we will come back to it. So skip a page and get your journal started on the next page. So some important things to include in the header of your journal entries is the date. Always include the date so that way it'll be easy for you to refer to, okay? Refer back to. Also, you always want to have a title of the project or the activity. So today's activity is called Draw a Scientist. And we'll figure more about that in a second. Something else is gonna be the guiding question, okay? So this is gonna vary from week to week because we're gonna cover so many different topics this summer. It's always gonna be different. So always have a space for that. That's gonna be the first thing that you write. And this week's guided question is, what are different types of science and what does a scientist doing science look like? Okay, so that'll be the first thing. The next thing is having a space for research notes, okay? We will be providing information to you in different documents, but we also want you to do some research on your own too. So, don't depend on us to do all the research for you. We will have different prompts so that way you can go out and research some things on your own, okay? And that is what you'll add in this section. So for this week's activity, we just want you to research different types of science, okay? And through my research, what I found out is that there's 3 main categories of science: life sciences, physical sciences, and earth sciences. So what we want you to do is just list a couple, like at least 3 in each activity, and kind of write a little bit about what each science focuses on, okay? So do that there in the research area, and then under that, the next area will be the data collection and observation notes. So you'll be doing different experiments throughout the summer, and sometimes they require you to record things, you know, as you're doing it. So if you're doing a chemistry, then you might have to write down how much of a solution you added it into something, or record the time of something. So that is a section that you would add those things to, those observations. Or if you're outside and we're asking you to look for something, you can record those observations here in this area too. But for this week, the observations that we want you to do is we want you to look at pictures of a scientist of your choosing. Choose a scientist that you didn't know about originally, one that really interests you. And so pick one of the scientists from your list here and look at pictures of them and just kind of observe some of the things that are around them. What are they doing? What kind of clothes are they wearing? What kind of equipment do they have? Just record anything that you can see about pictures of your scientists, okay? So I chose a zoologist. And what I noticed is that they almost always are working outside. They have to have on like outdoor protective clothing. They often come in contact with animals. Like a lot of the time they're in contact with some sort of animal. And then that they always have some sort of outdoor gear like binoculars, so that way they can kind of observe the animals around them. So those are some of the observations that I made from looking at pictures of zoologists, okay? So that's gonna be the first page of your journal. So you can take a look at that. Also notice that I wrote in pencil. You are going to find out soon that scientists make mistakes sometimes, and they have to revise and edit things a lot of the times, okay? That there's things change a lot in science, okay? So we recommend that you work in pencil so that way you can erase and fix things as things change, okay? So that's the first page. Make sure you label your page numbers because that's going to be important for the table of contents. Okay, so for the next page, that page, you're going to have a section for science sketches. So, for example, let's say we are going to have you do an activity to where you are observing rocks and you want to see the differences and similarities between them. You may not always be able to take a picture, or if you take a picture, it's on your phone, you have to pull that out, when you can just have a sketch of it here all in the same place. And so that's why it's good to have some sketches of some of the things that you're working on and the things that you're observing. So for this week, the sketch that we want you to make is of the scientists that you researched. So as you can see, the sketches, they don't have to be super accurate. You do not have to be an artist. Clearly, I'm not an artist, but it's okay. You don't have to be. But what you do have to do is label. So if some things are unclear, a simple way to fix that is to just go ahead and label it. So I have my zoologist here. You notice he's outside and there's a snake right there, you know, some birds flying in the distance. But some things on him, you wouldn't really be able to tell that from the picture, but I labeled it as field clothes, and he's got on boots, you know, he can't wear sandals and stuff outside. And you're working with animals and dangerous elements and stuff. So he's got on his boots, he's got on his field clothes. He's also got a set of binoculars so he can observe his surroundings. There's a field bag here where he keeps his special equipment, things that he might need while he's outside. Some water, you know, being outside, you got to stay hydrated. So that's my little sketch of my scientist, and we want you to do the same for the scientist that you chose. And so these next two sections, the reflection and the question section, those are going to happen after you are done with your experiment. For the reflection section, we really just want you to think about what you learned. What are some new things that you figured out that you didn't know before? And then also, how do those things tie into other things that you already maybe knew about? And so that's the section there. I basically just wrote that. I learned that there's way more types of science than I originally thought. And it made me realize that that's why scientists don't look a certain way. They look different because they have different duties. They have different equipment. They work in different spaces. And so, you know, scientists don't all look the same for a reason. And then for a question, you know, after you finish your reflection, think about something else that you'd want to learn about, or any questions that you had while you were working on your activity. After I started realizing how many different types of scientists there are, I have the question of, well, do different scientists work together to solve problems? Like, do they come together, or do they kind of just stay in their own group? So that was a question that I had. I'm curious to see what questions you guys come up with. So that is basically it for your science journal. For the most part, we'll have some platform for you to share your questions and your comments, maybe some of your sketches and things like that, so that way we compare them across the class. So make sure that whenever you're starting a journal entry, you start it on like a new clean page, not on the back of a page. So when we move on to next week's activity, it should start on a fresh, clean page, okay? And that'll be page 2. So you can go back to your table of contents now, which was that first page, and go ahead and like fill it in with the activity name and the page number. But yeah, that is basically it. If you have any questions or concerns, you can leave them in the comments and we'll get back to you. All right, well, thanks, and we're excited to do the next activity. Bye.